Hi, everybody. It's Coach Craig from Householder Integrated Training here at Pittsburgh, and today I want to go over with you how to keep a food journal. The name of the presentation today is The Food Journal, the Key to Your Fitness Success, and I think that by the time we go through all this, you'll have a pretty good understanding why. So let's take a quick look at the topics we're going to cover today. First of all, who should keep a food journal? Why keeping a food journal is so important in accomplishing your goals, and 3, how to keep a food journal to maximize results. So let's dig right in here and start to look at who should be keeping a food journal. And this one's easy for me because I feel everybody should be keeping a food journal. Everyone with a weight loss or athletic goal should keep a consistent food journal. So for weight loss clients, your food journal is going to be your base of accountability and how you communicate easily with your coach. And for athletes too, a lot of the times I think people feel that athletes kind of get to eat whatever they want. Well, not the very best athletes, and those athletes that are getting to the next level, getting to collegiate and the pro levels, they're all focused on their nutrition. And if you want to peak at the right times and you want to be competitive, you're going to have to focus on your nutrition too, and that means keeping a food journal. So now let's take a quick look at why keeping a food journal is so important. Well, first of all, it keeps you accountable to yourself. So if you're going to eat something, you have to write it down. It just makes it a little more present in your mind. You have to be aware of what you're eating. It's a lot harder to eat an entire bag of Oreos when you actually have to write down, hey, I ate an entire bag of Oreos. Not that it doesn't happen, but it's harder. It also helps your coaches to know exactly what and when you're eating so that we can help. And this goes for your doctor and your nutritionist too. If you're writing it down, I can analyze what you're doing. I can make suggestions on how to do things maybe a little bit better. If you're not writing it down, though, I don't have that data to work with. It also ensures that you're getting adequate hydration and that you're spacing your meals out properly. Being dehydrated is huge, and this is a great way to track your hydration throughout the day to make sure that by the end of the day, you've gotten your gallon of water in. And finally, this one's really important. It will help you and your coaches easily identify systematic problems with your eating. And what do I mean by this? People are creatures of habit, so we tend to eat the same things over and over again. One day looks a lot like the next day. I use the example of protein a lot. So let's say that, we determine that 100 grams of protein a day is a good benchmark for you. That's a normal amount of protein for someone trying to build muscle. So through journaling, we discovered that you're only getting about 70 grams per day, which, on the surface doesn't seem so bad. It's 30 grams off in a day. But then when you extrapolate that out times 7 days a week, that becomes 210 grams of protein or 2 full days that you missed. And keeping the food journal and keeping it regularly will help us to determine when you're making systematic errors like that. All right, so let's get into the nuts and bolts on how we're going to keep our food journal. So the first order of business is to choose a physical book that we're going to carry around with us all the time. And it's important to remember that you pick something that's going to fit in your pocket, or ladies, it'll fit in your purse, because the goal is to have this book with us at all times so that it's real time. So we're recording things into our journal as they happen. So remember that the food journal is a tool, and not having it with you at all times renders it useless. So I don't really care how big the book is, but some people like to use these big full-size notebooks. But just remember, you need to have that with you at all times. You don't want to get into the habit of going back and backlogging at the end of the day. And I know this is going to bum a lot of people out. We all love our phones, but there is simply no smartphone app that's as effective as just a simple pen and paper for keeping a journal. There's lots of reasons for this. I've looked at lots of apps. One, I think it kind of gets people focused on the wrong things. We're counting calories, and a lot of times it'll give you some really crazy caloric ranges to use. And the other part of it is it's kind of a back and forth between you and your coach. So I can't really take your phone and write notes on it or circle anything so that you can review it later. So I know a lot of people really love their smartphone apps, but please just take it from me. A simple pen and paper will definitely work best for this purpose. Okay, so we got our little book and we're ready to start recording in our food journal. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that we're going to track all of our fluids and our daily supplements. Anytime we talk nutrition, we have to start with hydration. So tracking how much fluid you're getting in a day is a great way to ensure that we're getting that upwards of a gallon of water that most people need. I suggest that you use the same water bottle all the time, carry it with you everywhere you can. And just start every food journal page with water on the top line, and you just add a check or a little tick mark every time you finish that bottle. And by the end of the day, it'll make it really easy for you to go back and do the math. And also throughout the day, it'll give you some benchmarks to make sure that you're kind of on track to get proper hydration throughout the day. And make sure that you're, noting all other beverages. That includes coffee, tea, soda, and especially alcohol. And that'll get into, journaling the bad stuff, what we'll talk about in just a little bit. We also want to record all of our daily vitamins and supplements. It's kind of a little side bonus of keeping a food journal, as we get to get really regimented on making sure that we're getting those vitamins and those supplements every day. And our next step is to record times with all of our entries. So this is going to make you aware of when you're eating and help you to properly space out meals, as well as giving your coach really, really valuable information. A lot of our nutrition counseling is actually based on proper macronutrient placement, which is just a technical way to say when you're eating what. So recording time codes with all of your entries can really help your coach to make sure you're eating the right foods at the right times. One of the most interesting things I think about food journaling is that it can help us to understand a lot of times why we make poor choices. So, maybe you ate something that you just knew was terrible for you, a candy bar, fast food, something like that, and you go back and look at the food journal and the data, and it shows that went hours without eating. So then the first time that you got into a situation where you were able to feed yourself, you decided you just made a really bad choice. So a lot of times, keeping a strict food journal and recording times with it will help us to understand why we're making poor food choices and therefore eliminate those mistakes. The next step is to be specific. So we want to be able to accurately record and report what we're eating without wasting too much time doing it. And then it becomes cumbersome and you don't want to do it. So I recommend, being able to estimate your portion sizes. Maybe you use something like a small portion is, about the size of a deck of cards, and a medium portion would be smaller than your fist, where a large portion would be something larger than your fist. So it's an easy, quick way to estimate your portion sizes. And of course, it's okay to use shorthand as long as you know what you're talking about and you can recreate it with your coach if need be. But remember, the goal here is to be specific. We want to know exactly what you're putting in. So here's a couple examples. So this is a bad example. Turkey sandwich. It doesn't tell me a whole lot. What was on the sandwich. So a better entry there might be small turkey on whole wheat, sandwich with lettuce, tomato, and mayo. So you see that I used much more detail and some abbreviation to make it quick, but very easily to understand. And this brings us to the all-important step 5, record everything, especially the bad stuff. You simply just want to record everything that passes your lips, and do not stop recording just because you made a bad choice. I actually heard a really good analogy about this on the internet that said, stopping food journaling because you made a bad choice is like smashing your cell phone because you dropped it. So in other words, just don't throw all your goals out of the window just because you made one mistake. And just remember, failure to record your bad choices will turn this powerful tool back into just a notebook. So make sure you got to record everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Step number 6, don't backlog. You should record things as you eat and drink them. The food journal is a working tool for you to become more aware of your choices as you make them, and backlogging kind of eliminates its ability to do that. Number 7 is really, really important. Don't be embarrassed that you are keeping a food journal. You're focusing on your health and on your wellness, and that's something I think that other people should look up to. Remember, there's absolutely no shame in trying to get yourself well. And finally, one quick friendly reminder before we get into the actual demo pages of the food journal. This is really not difficult, so avoid the temptation of making this more difficult than it is. Now, it is starting something new, so sometimes you have to give a little bit of time to go through some growing pains and to get a system down. But seriously, it takes only a couple seconds to do each entry, and it provides you with just so much great information. So my best advice to you is don't make this any harder than it has to be. Okay, and before I send you out into the world to keep your awesome food journal, I just want to go over this sample food journal page with you. Start by throwing the date in the upper right hand corner, and then opposite that, it's where I'm going to put my water. And you'll see that I track my water intake by using the same bottle every day, and then I'm just going to put a slash or tick mark My water bottle that I used for this example is 20 ounces. I have 7 tick marks, so 20 ounce bottle times 7 is 140 ounces of water. 140 ounces is greater than a gallon, which is 128, so I did my job for the day. I recorded all my daily vitamins and supplements so that I didn't forget to take them. And I used timestamps on all my entries to make sure that I properly spaced out my meals and that my macronutrients were placed appropriately. You can see here where I used my predetermined portion sizes. And finally, you'll see me recording my bad stuff. I had a glass of wine with dinner, so I recorded that bad choice with all the other awesome choices that I made that day. And one more thing, I always think it's a really good idea to go ahead and record the time of your workout. If you did work out that day, that kind of helps everybody to understand maybe why you ate some of the macronutrients when you ate them, and making sure that you're getting the proper nutrition bookended around your workouts. And that'll do it for this presentation on the Food Journal. I hope everybody found it helpful. Be sure to check us out on Facebook and check us out on the web at hitpittsburgh.com. Thanks, everybody.